The Hobgoblin Archer is extremely cheap but pretty effective tier 1 unit for the Chaos Dwarf army roster. You can recruit it at just about anywhere as long as you have the Hobgoblin recruiting station, and they are actually pack a punch for their price value. They don't have the greatest range and not the greatest melee stats, but they do have a high amount of ammunition and a fair amount of damage for what you're getting. With flaming attacks, it's very keen for you to attack units like trolls or undead units to make sure they're not regenerating and doing that extra damage against them. Plus, in the Chaos Dwarf army roster, lots of times you'll apply weakness to fire on most enemies, so the extra fire damage you get from that is going to be even greater. I recommend taking about 4 of these for your back line so you can shoot over the line and do consistent damage to either large or troll units, or once those units are down, to take out their back archer units. The Chaos Dwarf Blunderbuss is one of my favorite units in the Chaos Dwarf army roster. I always use these guys in a checkerboard formation supporting the front line to do massive amount of armor-piercing missile damage to all the units coming across. I mostly use it as kind of an anti-large unit, as the artillery is going to do most of the damage to the infantry as it's approaching. So whenever there's any flying units, large units approaching, it's able to get that line of sight on those units and to decimate them with massive amount of missile strength and with that armor-piercing damage. Also, if there's any charging units coming from the flank, I will also quickly move them to deal with those cavalry, as it can very quickly decimate any units trying to get around you. I don't recommend keeping them in long sustained fighting. They do have way better melee stats as the Hobgoblin Archer, but you should move them back to get them in a good line of sight. The Inferno Guard with Fire Glaives is a tier 4 unit that provides a little extra range for your missile units, but it doesn't do the quite same amount of damage as your blunderbusses would. So with this unit, I would use it to replace my front line with the blunderbusses supporting it on the rear. So they can engage from far, and as the units get closer, the blunderbusses can do the extra damage, plus they're already softened up from the fire glaives engaging. They also have armor-piercing weapon strength, armor-piercing missiles, and they have anti-large, so anything charging into them will take a massive amount of damage. Plus they have the expert charge defense, so having them on a front line is very smart to have those large units get stuck in the melee, while your blunderbusses can melt them down completely. They are an expensive unit, so all your armies are going to have it. I would keep this with your main army to have a massive firing line that can decimate anything coming at it. So that's the missile infantry for the Chaos Dwarf army roster. What do you think? Did I miss anything that you would really want specified for these units? Do you actually really enjoy these units? Which one do you use the best? Make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and as always, gonna be my neighbor.